have you been? What's been keeping you busy that you're officially allowed to talk about?
No kidding, man. I have three movies, and I none of them. I think Moana, the live action
Mm-hmm.
that they're going to do, is announced, so I can say I'm doing that.
Fantastic.
I'm doing another project that I can't talk about because they haven't announced it yet. But I've been
Sure.
working on it for a couple of years, and then there's a Moana 5-part Disney Plus series that's going to be a continuation of the Moana story.
Okay.
And I'm working on that. So we're in Moana land here.
That's fantastic. And I think they both come out next year, right?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think
Okay.
the Moana live action film's got to be a year and a half off because there's a lot to that. Um, so I don't really know.
That's okay. That's okay. No, that's good. Keeping things are keeping you busy. The project sounds very interesting, and I'm really looking forward to listening to your work. And in the meantime, um, I apologize. I forgot the name of that movie that you told me, and I listened to the soundtrack so many times
Was
after
it
we talked.
was it Sea Beast?
No, no, no. I don't know what just happened. Sorry. It
Oh,
was
oh,
the dramatic one, the one with
Return to Paradise.
yes. Oh, what a beautiful soundtrack.
They
What
changed
a
the name of that movie. That it was Return to Paradise, and then I've seen something else. So, but thank you. I really think that's a strong movie. It got overlooked at the time because Anne Heche had just come out that she was gay, and it was kind of an odd time to make that announcement because it was a romantic story, and it was a little bit weird going with their publicity that they were doing. So it hurt the movie a little bit, but she's great in it, and Vince Vaughn is great in it, and of course Joaquin Phoenix is an amazing actor, and
yeah.
it was an underrated movie, and everybody I've shown that movie to really thought it was quite good.
It was, but with the work that you have produced over the last, 2.5, three almost decades, that to me, the ones that I've heard at least, like it just stood out so like it was just very emotional because I listened to the soundtrack many, many times before I even watched the film,
Oh,
just to kind of get, and it actually struck me. It was really well done. So, kudos to you. And I think it's
thank
one of
you.
your best works, to be
Thank
honest.
you. I mean, I have to say, it's my favorite. And as I say, so many people have not seen it. It's kind of a shame for me because I didn't do a lot of movies like that, because I wasn't really known for that kind of dramatic, say, romantic type of score.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed doing it, and I remember the piece of music at the end, which plays through a pretty heavy dialogue, and
Right.
the whole ending. I wrote that entire. It's like 5 minutes long or something, and I remember it's one of the only times where I've written something and the director came in and I played it for him and he looked at me and just went, it's it's exactly right. It's like there's not one thing I can say about it. So that's a once in a lifetime for a film composer. So
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Has there been any dramatic stuff that I know films kind of come to you, like, or has there been anything that's come close to in terms of the storyline and premise that you wish you kind of almost got it, but it didn't work out for whatever reason?
you mean a film that I wanted to do that I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
get?
similar. Yeah, that's something dramatic, like something like
Oh,
Return to
that happened to me.
Paradise.
I can't even tell you how many films. I mean, I was for quite a long. See, when I did Speed and Bad Boys and Twister, and I was known for, well, that guy does, high action
Yeah.
bouts, and I did Return to Paradise somewhere in there, and I did a really little film called Moll Flanders, and I really tried to push that style and get those kind of movies. I mean, I even met with different producers that do those kind of movies, and um, I just didn't get them. I mean, they just, you know, I I think the one thing is that they didn't see Return to Paradise, so they couldn't cite that as a
Yeah.
really beautiful score. They hadn't heard it, so it meant nothing to them. And so I never really got anything like that. I mean, the August Rush was, you know, a romantic, very musical movie. So that would be sort of along those lines. But I've done, you know, Joe Rubin, who I did Return to Paradise with. I first
Mm,
did Money Train with him. And, you know, of course, he hired me because it was an action movie. And so I was the
mm.
action guy. But then he got to know me as more of a, you know, more than that. And he asked me to do Return to Paradise. And I did a few other projects with him, but nothing, you know, that was really quite as gripping to me as that movie was and that score was.
Right. Yeah. No, I hope that you get to do something similar, because I always find, like, you know, with Hollywood, you get pigeonholed. Um, and then I always, there are certain very few filmmakers who see that as an opportunity, that
Yeah,
okay, this guy has not done something like this. If I give him that, he was gonna go
yeah.
completely all out in outdoing himself, right? And
Well, I think
uh,
that's the, you know, in Spielberg's camp. I don't think that Steven Spielberg is necessarily that great with music, to be honest with you. I think that he was smart enough to hire John Williams, and every time he did a movie, whether it was a jazz score or a suspense score or a science fiction, it didn't matter. He gave it to John for that reason, because he knew that John would rise to the occasion and that he could handle it. And I think there's just not enough directors like that. I think directors are very frightened, and they, you know, they got to go with who did the last big Marvel movie. That guy must be really good, you know.
yeah, yeah, no, so
Uh,
true.
it's just the way it is. You know, I'm
No,
not
I get
complaining.
it.
I have too much work.
No,
I can't.
no,
I don't even have a room for anything else. So for years, I don't think so. Uh, anyway,
no, no, that's good. That's good. Well said. And you know, going to Bad Boys, we kind of touched upon Bad Boys last time we chatted, but let's kind of go from the start. You know, you talked about that, how you guys used speed as the temp music for Bad Boys,
I think a
and
lot of it
then
was, yeah.
yeah, and then the notes were kind of reversed, but just working, like the starting process on working on Bad Boys, after the production was done, working with Michael Bay, just in the beginning process, how did that develop in your sort of working relationship with Michael Bay in the very beginning?
Well, first of all, so Jerry, when Jerry Bruckheimer does a movie, he's very involved in the music.
Okay,
He's got, you know, he's a smart guy. And so with any director, Jerry had a tendency to sort of be the final word. Whether the director liked it or not, it didn't matter, because if Jerry didn't like it, it's not going to happen.
got it.
So my first, and of course Michael Bay wasn't anybody, and so he was a commercial. He had done some commercials from what I knew. So I
Yep,
wasn't really I wasn't really worried about Michael Bay, although I should have been, but I wasn't really worried about him. I was more concerned about what Jerry thought. And Jerry's partner, what's his name? I mean, the
Don
name
Simpson's.
Don Simpson. And so
Yeah,
those guys, I mean, they terrorized me, because I was young, and it was new, and they really wanted me to do the movie, but they would literally come into my studio with newspapers and read the newspaper while I was playing the cue to them. And sometimes they'd put the newspaper down and go, "No, that's not even you. You didn't even write that. That's garbage. Play something else." I go, "What?" You know, I mean, it was like that, to where, and you know, and then I would write something, and Jerry would call me and go, "Thank you. That is absolutely brilliant." And then I would feel so good, you know. And then the next day they'd come in and they would hate what I did. So I remember at a certain point, Jerry probably could tell that I was losing sleep. And I was new at it. And because I went out to his car and he said, "Look, Mark, this is how we work. This is how we do things, you know. So just hang in there." So it was kind of like, you know, we're going to tell you we don't like things just to keep pushing you harder and harder. Because I heard Jerry say once that he thought the composers were really lazy. And I don't I mean, in my case, it's not true, but you know, I think his feeling is that, you know, the harder you push somebody, the better you'll get out of them. And I'm not so sure that's true, because I wrote some really, really great stuff that got changed that didn't need to be, and um, you know, there were some cues that really turned out great, but you know, after so much scrutiny, I mean, they were really good to begin with. So I don't know. I don't know. It was difficult. Now I go back and listen to that main theme, and I really enjoy it. And I believe they're still using it. I mean, I know they used it on Bad Boys 3, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they're doing a Bad Boys 4. I don't know. That's what I heard.
Oh, are they?
I heard that. I don't know if that's true.
Mm. And you kind of mentioned this a little bit, that the theory of pushing certain people to their limits in order to get better results from them. Um, and you said that you don't think that that's true, which I feel the same way. But at the same time, especially someone who's not in the case where you were in that beginning stage, I mean, like really, really, early part of their career, not just film and anything. Do you feel it's important if somebody has that certain amount of talent, but they're not pulling it out of themselves, and sometimes you have to push people to do that? Or is that a bad move in your opinion?
No, I think, but I mean, and I can only speak for composers that I know. You know, I can't speak
Sure.
for all the guys out there.
Yep.
What I do know is they pay us good money. We have a deadline. You know, we're working for big studios. There's already a lot of pressure on us. You know, we don't need somebody to say, "Oh man, he's just sitting around. He's not even working on this," because in order to stay alive in this business, you need to work hard. That you can't. You can skate by. I think a lot. I think some guys do. I hear some scores, and I just go, "Wow." But I think most guys work very hard at this, and it's very time consuming. And so, you know, a lot of the times, by the time you play, you know, the 24th cue or the 25th cue for your director, you're pretty tired. And you've been working really hard. And so it's very difficult to feel that you need to be pushed. It
Right.
just doesn't, it doesn't make sense to me.
No,
I know,
I
people work like that. There's a lot of people that work like that. I've worked with a lot of people that work like that, but I just don't, that just doesn't, I don't know. Also, as you get
I
older, you just start to feel like I just can't, you know, if you don't
yeah.
respect it, if you aren't excited that I'm working for you on this, then it's a wrong match, you know. Uh,
Yeah. No, I feel it's even true when it comes to, like, post production, uh because post production and music composing, it's a similar kind of a thing, like where you're just kind of sitting there and trying to come up with the story or the music and all that. And there have been cases in my life as well, like way back, about 12 years ago, where I would kill myself to work for this lady for like $15 an hour, start of my career, and she was never satisfied. And it gave me a reel for like maybe 6 months, but the money was garbage, and the amount of work that even on Christmas Day working. So I get that. Like, the whole pushing thing, sometimes there needs to be a balance. You can't just expect people to give up their life and just, be completely dedicated to one thing. Um, but yeah, no, I totally understand, and I agree with that.
I think also your reputation, you know, should play into it. You know, if it's your first movie, they can push you
Yeah,
around. But if it's your, you know, 30th movie, they got to figure you've got some experience of what you've been doing. If you're still
exactly.
doing it, you're still getting paid to do it, you must do something right, you know.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And then with Jerry, work, and Don working with you and all that, at what point Michael came in? Was it
well, he came in
throughout
at
this?
he came in at the
Okay.
beginning, and you know, um, he just he was still finding his feet. You know, he certainly knew how to film something and all of that, all the technical parts of what he does, and the amazing sequences that he would put together were fantastic. Um, I had an advantage also. I think I was living with him, but the editor and I were buddies, and you know, he was editing the film, so we were connected that way. So you know, there was a sense of that I wasn't against their team. I was kind of on their team. And Michael, yeah, the frustrating thing was that Michael really liked, well, at the time, he really liked my score, Bad Boys. You know, I remember a couple of times, and for him to say this is unbelievable, but he said that, you know, I'd be doing all of his movies in the future. Now, you know, Bad Boys 2 is what happened, and that kind of ended the relationship. But which the two movies always end relationships. But the you know, Michael was okay. I mean, there were times, you know, when he would just not like something, which I couldn't figure out why he wouldn't like it. But for the most part, I kind of think he was happy the music was getting done, and you know, and Jerry, you know, Jerry wants to win awards, and he wants the music to win awards, and he pushes, and that's okay. It's just not the environment I want to work in anymore. But you know, it was a great experience. But I remember The Rock was the next movie, and I was like, no, I just can't do it. You know, I can't go into that again right now. It wasn't until, I don't know when that was, 3 or 4 or 5 years later, that they asked me to do Bad Boys 2.
And totally up to you if you want to talk about it. I'm not looking for any controversies, but in terms of, you said that, you know, after Bad Boys 2, things kind of went south.
Yeah.
Was it because, yeah, what was the reason, if that's something you're willing to share?
Yeah, well, there was a couple reasons. I had built a studio up in Lake Arrowhead, a pretty extensive studio, and I had my crew up there, and we started the Bad Boys 2 movie, but I believe that I was already committed. Boy, this is hard to remember, but there was something else going on during that time that I was committed to. And I think that in earnest, I started Bad Boys 2, and I wrote, I think, some of my best stuff. It was based on the Bad Boys 1 themes, but updated and edgier, really good. And I was really happy about it. And Michael Bay hated it. I mean, he absolutely hated it. But he hated it, I think, because I wasn't in his office. Because what ended up happening is Jerry called me and said, you need to move all of your, how much will it cost us to move all of your equipment into Michael Bay's office? And I said, what? I can't do that. I mean, I've built a whole studio. I have a baby, you know, I'm delivering great work, and you want me to move everything? And he goes, yeah, that's what you got to do. And I just said no. I mean, you know, number one, it's not going to make a better score, and number two, if I felt like the music was really not working, you know, I would have been the first to say, yes, we're not connecting, it's not good. But the music was really good. In fact, they used some of it in the final product, which is the funniest part about it. But I think what happened was I got Trevor Rabin involved. No, I got Trevor Rabin involved in Con Air first, and then I think we did Bad Boys 2, and I think he helped with Bad Boys 2, and then he took it over because I was doing The Lion King on Broadway. I think that's what it was, and I had to go to Minnesota and put this gigantic musical together. And I was still on the first 7 cues that they just kept turning down. I mean, I've talked to Mark Isham, I've talked to Alan Silvestri. This has happened to all these guys, you know, where it's like, you know, they played the first 3 or 4 cues for Michael Bay or for Jerry or whoever, and they just nope, 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 you know. And then you hear the final movie and you go, that's what they wanted? Really? You know. But I think it's part of the push you, and you know, no matter what you play them first, it's not going to be, it might, the first thing they might love, and then, but the second thing they're not going to love, because they're not going to let you think that you're just nailing it, you know.
It's interesting, and I'm not talking about them in particular, just in general, even in any kind of workforce, you know, whether you're private or arts or whatever, lives and sciences. There are certain people who would push you for the reason of pushing you, just to get the better out of you.
Yeah.
But I also think a lot of people do it so you have this fear for them, and then you do, and you don't produce good work out of fear.
No, I don't
You
think
just,
so. And I think some guys do. I think there are some guys that are, it's an alpha thing. I mean, Jerry's an alpha, man. I mean,
yeah,
and I like him a lot, and I think he's extremely talented and obviously very successful and great at what he does. I just think that him and we could have been an amazing team, because I think I could have written him some great stuff in the future. But I think that our working way didn't work for me. I just didn't. I didn't have enough armor to just keep getting it, bashed and just kind of keep brushing it off like, don't worry about it. I just don't have that. I take it all to heart. I take my music to heart, which is kind of a problem, but it's the way I am. So the way I'm made.
no, that's I'm glad that you are open about it, because I get, it's difficult sometimes, because certain people are, they're very emotionally attached to their work, and not that you're not looking for any kind of feedback. It's just sometimes you need to have a right balance, and it's about dealing with the art of dealing with people. And I think that's where the skill set comes too, is like certain people can get a lot of good work out of people by just being balanced, and
Mm-hmm.
it works with some people and it just doesn't work with some people.
And the people I work with right now, I'm working with Disney a lot, and people I've basically grown up with, who are
Yeah.
now running the company, the music departments. They treat me like like we're colleagues. We're trying to make something really great. It's not a matter of I'm going to need to grind you down a little bit. There just isn't any of that, and so I'm very used to that kind of respect. And I like it, and I do really good work, and so I think that just works better for me.
Yeah. No, I
Kind of
think the
why I'm
key.
not. It's kind of why I'm not in the live action scene. I don't do much live action anymore. It's a different scene, and I haven't. I don't have relationships in that world that I've done things with, because I've done so many animated movies, and so many small, like August Rush, a type of film that takes a long time, not really well seen, but has a cult following, quite a cult following.
Yeah. No, and part of you wishes sometimes that you do live action now? Like if an offer came that you liked, like in terms of the script?
The trouble with it now is, I mean, if I weren't working,
Hmm.
and somebody came along with something that was really cool, but I've got so much work that if somebody did come to me with something, if somebody
Okay.
did come to me, I see what's going on. Hopefully Marlon will pick it up. If somebody did come to me with something, I wouldn't be able to take it right now anyway. So it's not something that I could just jump on. I was kind of surprised. I mean, they're doing Twister 2, and
Yeah.
I'm just kind of surprised that, except that I couldn't do it, but I wasn't really even in the running, which is bizarre to me, because it was such a smash, and I get asked for that music all the time. In fact, they just performed it in Monterey. The Monterey Symphony just performed part of Twister, and I don't know. It's just a strange business. It's weird. But as I say, if I got a call tomorrow to do that movie, I'd have to turn it down because I have too much work. So, things have to balance out.
Yeah. But in general, if your schedule was, let's say, a little bit more flexible, if something came up, you would definitely take it, as provided you love the script and everything.
Yeah,
And the
there's a
people
lot
that
of
you work.
questions. The script is one big question. Who are you working
Yeah.
for? Who's
That's
the
what I was gonna ask you,
director?
yeah.
What do you think? And those are questions, of course, when you're coming up, you don't ask those questions because anyone who wants to hire you,
You'll take it.
I'd love to work with you, but at this point now you realize, okay, well, I'm going to be dealing with this person for the next, year or 6 months, whatever it's going to be. And I got to make sure we're simpatico.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to
Yeah.
regret it.
Yep. No, that's very important. Synergy is very, very important. And I think, like you said, like when you're young and upcoming, you'll just take whatever. But after a certain time, if you've been around for a while, you want to make choices that are that balance your life and your personality as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, do you remember anything in particular from either of the Bad Boys movies from the standpoint of coming up with a certain track and the challenges that you face, aside from, Michael or Jerry, just trying to come up with something that you were stuck on with your team, and how did you come out of it?
I you know,
And
I remember, gosh, what I can't remember is what the order was, but I had to write that theme, that the kind of the pop theme with the drum track and everything. I
Mhm,
had to write that for a scene where they're in a car and they're kind of grooving to the Bad Boys theme. That was what that was, and I
mhm,
didn't have a theme. So I wrote that piece, and that's the piece that Jerry really loved. And
mhm.
then I pulled from that, bum, 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 that little riff. From that, I pulled that into the score and started using that all over the place, because now I had three notes or whatever it might, and I had it. That really helped to shape things. And so, in the same way, Speed had a little motif, this one had a little motif, and it helped me because there's so much action, and with so much action, you just can't be doing 16th notes all the time and not have any melodic material to grab from. It's ridiculous. So uh, that really helped me out. There's a long foot chase sequence uh, with Will Smith that was a big deal, and it took a long time. There was a ton of cuts to it, a ton of versions to it. It was very long, and then it became 6 minutes and 5 minutes. But it was a really great sequence, and it's pretty much music and action, and it's pretty fun. And I was proud of the way that turned out.
Right. Um, with Moana, the live action movie that you're working on, I forget the name of the director. I think it's Thomas something.
Yeah,
Thomas Kail.
we haven't actually started it yet,
Okay.
so I haven't met him yet. Um, this is Lynn's director from Hamilton,
Right.
and
Right.
I think Lynn's probably executive producing this movie, I would think. I don't know yet. I haven't uh, talked to him about this yet. Um, but they are, there was going to be this big strike, and I think it's not going to happen. And so I think that everything is moving forward. So they're on kind of a good track.
Okay. And are you already working on the series? Like we're working with the
Yeah,
directors?
yeah.
Okay.
The
So
series is
let's.
going. Um, and that's a different team. That's Jordan, who wrote the script to Moana, who directed Encanto, is really kind of in charge of this series, and uh, we haven't really started scoring. We've been working on the songs written by two women. They're called B&B. I know them as Abigail and Emily, but they're songwriters. They're young, and they've written some really great songs. And we're working on the songs first. Probably try to get most of the songs together first before we get into the scoring of it. It's really beautifully laid out. It's going to look really beautiful. And for Moana fans, it'll be great because it's a continuation of Moana's life. So she's 21, I think, now. And she's moving forward in her life. So it's, more adventure and more stuff.
Right. No, that sounds exciting. And I think I just read it right now. The series has been pushed back to 2024 from 2023. So it was supposed to come out this year, I think, but then they pushed it to
Well, yeah, I
next
was
year.
going to say 2024. I hope so. Um,
Well, I don't know how old this article is or it's even
because
accurate.
even that is, I'm not even sure. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to know when things are in post and then when they actually come out. I remember August Rush was like 2 years later. So I mean, you don't know. It might be in June. For all I know. But not really sure. A lot of
And
work
what,
ahead.
for sure. And what, everybody's different when they're at a certain age. And I always believe that after every 10, 15 years everybody changes, like whether it's their creative work, their political views, their personality, and then we keep evolving ourselves, right? And who you were when you were working in Bad Boys, versus who you are now, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to yourself if you could go to the past?
Yeah, I think composers in general are very insecure. You doubt yourself a lot, and you're vulnerable because if you show something to somebody that you're working for and they reject it, there's no way that that doesn't hurt. You know, there's no way that that doesn't, you know. So I think I've learned, you know, one thing I've really tried to put forward in the last couple of years is to not worry, because you can worry about everything, and you find yourself almost making up scenarios before you play something for someone. You're already making up stuff,
Oh
you know.
yeah.
So I really try not to do that anymore. The other thing is I have a lot of confidence now. I don't doubt myself as often. So when somebody says something, I don't immediately think, oh yeah, you're right. No, it is terrible. You know, I don't, I don't go there. I feel really confident in what I do. And the only reason I can say that is the amount of years I've been doing it. You know, I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that during the Bad Boys 1 era at all. Um, but um, it's so funny. I met this guy the other day and he said, "You did Bad Boys, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You know," and he played me on his phone, and that's his like his ringtone. And I'm just going, that was like 1990. When was that movie? 95?
1995, I think. Let me just
Wow.
double check.
I mean, that's a long time ago, you know?
Yeah, 95. Yeah.
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 So, you
It's
know, I just thought of another film that I did that I thought had a really, some moments were really good, but the movie didn't do well. It wasn't that good of a movie, but it was called The Haunted Mansion.
that
Um,
sounds so
it
familiar.
was a very big score. I mean, I had a choir and pipe organ and full orchestra, and I mean, it was big. Um, but again, you know, because that movie didn't do that well, I wasn't known for that style of a movie, and that's the way it works. You know?
Was that oh, it was in 2003. They're actually redoing
Yeah,
it or redid it in 2023 too. The
I don't know
Haunted
anything about
Mansion.
that.
Disney Plus. It's called Haunted Mansion. I don't know if it's the same
Maybe it's a
one or not.
series, or maybe they reshowed it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's a
It's
series.
the 20-year anniversary. I know that. So
Okay. Um, and it's so accurate about, I think it's not just music composers, it's people in creative business. The insecurity level is just that self-doubt is always there,
yeah,
right? Because and then what happens is that depending on who you're working for or working with, if you get someone to boost you while still trying to push you but respect you, it takes you another level. But especially in that beginning part of the career, if somebody's completely demoralizing you all the time, it can literally destroy your career, period. You might just think, that's it, I'm done, I quit.
I can tell you a million times that I thought that way, and I thought I'm just not good at this. I mean, this is not what I should be doing. I'm not good at it. I mean, if I was good at it, these people would be going, "Yeah, these cues are great," but they're nitpicking every note, like, "Oh, at the beginning it sounds too fast or too slow," and I realized that, you know, these people, they're trying to make something good. They're not musicians usually, you know. They don't know. I mean, when you hear something I mean, I work on something for 3 weeks and then I play it for them. They hear it one time and they have all these comments. And it's like, well, I mean, I have to listen to something several times to get
Yeah.
it. Um, but that's the way it works. So like I said, I think if you're confident in your work and then somebody says, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? It's okay, you know. Uh, but if you're really feeling like you're getting pushed around, that's when you kind of have to stand up.
I'll tell you one story. I mean, it's not nothing to do with Hollywood. There was a very in the Indian film industry. Now, I don't want to call it Bollywood, because
Right.
this particular director is like a true filmmaker, and but he's very kind of like outspoken, tough. He went to this composer who ruled cinema. From his dad was a composer in the 50s and 60s, and he ruled cinema in the 70s and 80s, and then his kind of like downtime came. So this director went up to him and he said it was like a period piece, one of the first period piece made in India, and he said to him that I want you to compose this. And that composer, his name was R.D. Berman. He was so big at his time, but at that time in his life he was so insecure, and he told the director, I don't think I can do this. Like, this guy was like legendary. And the director went to him, you know what? I know you can. I'm going to come back in a week, figure it out. And that was his last score. He passed away after that. And that album made a killer amount of money, and it still plays today, and it's so timeless.
Wow,
So
good for
just,
him.
just one person believing in you, even though you were like a legend, it just makes a huge impact in
Yeah, it
someone's
does.
life.
And like you said, I mean, the opposite's true too. You're working for someone and they don't like anything you do. You really start to question if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you got to avoid that if you can, because yeah, that's them
Are
just
you
getting to.
are you doing any concerts or anything like that? Have you? I don't know if I asked you that last
We
time.
did, yeah, we did one. I actually did one. It was great because Alan Silvestri and Clint Eastwood and me they did an outdoor concert where they featured part of Twister, part of the Sea
Mm,
Beast, Clint Eastwood stuff, and Alan, some Back to the Future and some of Alan's stuff. And the three of us went together, and it was really great because it was kind of surreal. It was kind of like our local outdoor theater, and just kind of like, wow, we did really well, and we all live up here, and it's a very small little town, and it was fun. And so then, we talked about doing all this stuff concert wise, but again, the truth is I'm just too busy. I don't have
yeah.
the time to put into it to do it right. I'd like to do it at some point. Um, it would be really fun. I'd have to really devote myself to that as a project.
Well, it's a totally different experience and obviously time. I was just my son discovered this. He's a huge fan of uh uh Interstellar and like Christopher Nolan movies mostly, and Hans
Yeah, sure.
Zimmer, and also your music. He listens to Speed. And there is a performance of the very famous track from Inception, Time.
Hmm.
I'm sure you're familiar with it. And Hans Zimmer performs it, and he comes out with a guitar when that note comes in. And it was just such a different vibe watching something that you watch in films or listen to it as a, concert presentation. And I would love it, Mark, if down the road you did more, because I would love to be there too. I mean, it's just such a different thing. And I
Yeah.
really hope you get the time to do that, because it's just a totally different beast, that the audience is right in front of you and you're interacting with them.
Yeah, that part of it I would really love. Um, it's funny because my career, I've gotten more busy in the last 2 or 3 years than I've been in 10 years. And so stuff that I had planned, which was some live performances and this and that, I've kind of had to put them on hold.
Mm,
Excuse me.
that's okay. Bless you.
So thank you. So yeah, I mean, I am really interested in that. In fact, it's great because I'm working with Nick Lenny Smith. I don't know if you know Nick, but
Oh, yep, yep.
and he's conducting for me in a couple of weeks. And we haven't seen each other for a while, so it'd be really fun to see him. I think he
Oh,
worked on Bad Boys. I'm pretty sure he worked on Bad Boys.
I know he worked on The Rock
Yeah, he
with
did The
the
Rock. Yeah,
yeah,
yep,
yeah.
yep,
And yeah, I'm a huge fan of that soundtrack as well. I mean, there's some amazing soundtracks
yeah.
out there. And one thing I wanted to mention, going back to the directors, not or producers listening to your anybody's work, let's just say for your example, for yours, a lot of times music wears on you, but especially you have to watch it with the visuals to understand if it's having an impact on you without recognizing that there's actually a music track playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I have learned over the last, a decade, that you need to understand that sometimes some tracks, like The Rock or the Speed or Twister, like people would listen to it over and over again, but sometimes it has to be with the actual film in order for you to appreciate it and then listen to it independently.
I think that's true for sure. Yep. Yep. I know Speed had that impact. I mean, when people hear it, they remember it, but when they watch it and they hear it, they really remember it, you know, musically. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, this has been great, Mark. Thank you so much again for your time. I know you've been really, really busy. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
sorry,
you
I've had to
taking.
cancel it a few times. And almost today, I was just like, oh, no, I cannot cancel this again. So it worked out great. So.
No, it's all good. And would love to chat you again when you're a little bit less busy. Talk about Moana and a bunch of other stuff. Maybe
Good,
even.
I'll have a lot more info.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Thank you so much, Mark. You take care.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. And do come back for another episode. Until then, have a great day.